Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hello, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre. And we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
Some folks say that Willie Green was the baddest motherfucker the world ever seen. But I want you to hold on to your seat and hold on to them tight, because you now getting ready to see the story of me. Yes, me, the badass Dolemite.
Oh, he's bad. The man is out of sight. He's a tough.
Hi. All right. Glad to be back from my little hiatus. All I'll say is a 1-year-old will take a lot of wear and tear out of you.
How's that family life, Mike?
Man, I love my family, but buddy, I need my sleep. That's all I'll say.
So we're here. You know, I was kind of surprised. I got the message from Mike that he wanted to jump back in the saddle. He had a movie he wanted us to talk about, and I was not prepared when he told me what it was.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant to even mention this because I didn't know if this would be in your wheelhouse, but I'm glad that you seem to enjoy it.
Oh, dude, I'll watch anything.
Yeah. So we're gonna do Dolemite.
Dude, I had never seen this movie before.
Yeah, I had seen this movie like way back in the day because I think it was kind of like
Was it part of your childhood?
Well, not a part of my childhood, but it was definitely like a rite of passage, you know, in college to see this movie.
Okay.
Kind of like drinking your first 40. Like
Were you born when this came out, 75?
So yeah, I was 4 years old when it came out.
You're a little
I was, yeah, so it was definitely, and you know, for everybody out there who's seen this movie, you can understand why a 4-year-old probably shouldn't watch this. But so it was a little bit before
your
my
mom and
time.
dad didn't take you to the midnight screening?
Did not take me to the midnight screen, but I'm sure there was a 4-year-old there. I guarantee it.
Yeah, dude, this movie was wild, man. I mean, 1975, like Vietnam had just ended, but you have movies coming out like Godfather and early Scorsese flicks, and like whatever, The Exorcist. It was the golden age of like those good movies. With
Artistic, a lot of artistic flair.
But then you also had a lot of the like the grindhouse type movies.
Absolutely, and there was a big era for blaxploitation films, which I'm not. This obviously.
Who was the black stars before these movies, or were there even black stars?
Oh, I'm sure there were, but like
Sidney Poitier.
It was a
James Earl Jones, maybe.
I don't even know if James Earl Jones was a huge star at that point because he did Star Wars obviously like a couple years after this, but he wasn't on camera.
Like Raisin in the Sun and stuff like that.
Or what's the one, the boxer Great White Hope? He had done that. Yeah. So this is like a huge start to blaxploitation films, like the late 60s, early 70s, and there was like Shaft and
Sweetback.
Back. Yeah. All those movies. Superfly. All these movies came out around that same time. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the star of this film, Rudy Ray Moore, who is an icon in the comedy legends, who I don't think gets enough due.
But he was like a jack of all trades. Like he's a musician and a comedian and an actor and a writer.
But I don't think people think. I think people only think of him as Dolemite, as the actor. Like I don't really think of him as a stand-up comedian, which is where he started his whole shtick, right? And the thing about Rudy Ray Moore, he was born in 1927, right? So he's around the same age as Mike.
He's like the son of a sharecropper?
Yeah, in Arkansas. And like you said, he was a jack of all trades. He was a preacher, which
I didn't know that.
Well, but I can kind of see it with his
he's a showman.
Yeah, his showman, like his sermon type way of he delivers his rhymes.
He can really
speeches.
Control a room, like when he's speaking. Yeah.
So he joined the army like in the 50s, where I think this is where he kind of started his entertainment industry.
Okay.
Because he was like he used to sing and dance for some of the members of his Army Corps. They named him the Harlem Hillbilly because of the way he say it like in a country twang, I guess.
He never really came off as country to me, but we're from down south, so
we're probably
maybe
just used to it.
We're used to it, yeah.
Let's see. So after he left the Army, he moved to Seattle, Washington. And then from there, he went to Los Angeles, where he continued to work in clubs. And he was discovered by a record producer named Dotsy Williams. He was doing a show. He was up on stage, and I guess one of the acts was really late or something like that. Mm-hmm. So somebody out in the audience told him to tell a joke. And so that's how Rudy Ray Moore became a comedian. Like, he stood up there and told a joke, and he loved doing that, and he just continued to do that. But he wasn't having a lot of success. You know, he was still doing his comedy, but then he would be like a dishwasher, or he's just working like these low end jobs.
We should mention there's a movie that's kind of new on Netflix starring Eddie Murphy called Dolemite Is My Name. This gives a great look into what his life was like before, during, before and then during the production of all the Dolemite era stuff.
Yeah, they do a really good job. Yeah,
I don't know how accurate it is, but I'm going to take it that it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I was about to say they do a really good job, and I have no idea like if they're telling the truth or not.
But it's a hell of a good movie. So everybody should check that out. An amazing cast in it.
Yeah. But so here's how Dolemite came about. So he's doing his comedy at night, not really catching on. He's working at this record store during the day, and in this record store, there's like I guess an old wino used to come in there named Rico, who would always tell like these kind of like back end stories of this guy named Dolemite.
It's almost like tall tales, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, he'd come in, probably ask for a couple of dollars, and like, there's this Dolemite character.
You might hear like in the barbershop and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
I can see
guys
that.
talking shit.
Yeah. Now I grew up in the barbershop. I never remember anybody just telling tall tales like that, but I can see it. I can understand it. So Rudy Ray Moore saw that everybody really enjoyed these Dolemite stories, right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, and light bulb came on. He's like, maybe I should start doing something with Dolemite.
Yeah.
And he basically, long story short, took this character of Dolemite and incorporated it into his comedy act, where he basically became Dolemite.
He's a pimp. He's a ladies' man. He's
hustler,
like the toughest motherfucker.
Badass motherfucker. Yeah.
He's kind of like almost like a Black James Bond or something.
I can see that. Yeah, but I guess Rudy Ray Moore saw that everybody really enjoyed these stories, and was like, I think he was like, well,
he was doing well on the stand-up circuit.
Well, yeah, he was like, if this wino can make people laugh with this, think what a real performer can do with it. So this is how Dolemite came about.
And then he was doing albums as Dolemite that were underground hits, and then I think like he got a record deal.
He's just telling like his really blue jokes. They're
crazy stories. They always rhymed, it seemed like, but it would be about Dolemite escaping from that Titanic or like stuff going down in the jungle.
Just like outlandish, like over the top stories about like the black hero. I think he released one album. I think it was Eat Out More Often. Correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Raunchy title.
Yeah, exactly.
And a raunchy album cover if you want to find that.
Exactly. I think that album reached like the top 25 on the Billboard charts, right? So he had a success. So he knew that this character was a success.
Then I think he did a Christmas album, and he did some more albums.
Did some more stuff, yeah. But he wanted more. And he realized that the way that he's going to blow up as it became more famous was that he was going to have to make a movie. I think that's the charm of this movie, is this guy basically started out from nowhere, and despite of his talent level, you can dispute that, right? You can say, well, he was a great comedian, or he wasn't a great comedian, or he was a great actor, or he wasn't. And if you say he was, then there's something wrong with you. But this guy is the American dream, right?
Absolutely.
He was like, I want to create something, and he did it.
The movie's got like so much energy and so much like it feels so raw. Like I compare it to Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like Clerks, where you can just tell you can feel the passion of the people making it like within the movie, and it feels like something you're not supposed to be seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it feels like something that shouldn't have ever been able to be made.
I feel like with Dolemite, he literally was like knocked on his next door neighbors and like, hey, you want to be in my movie? It has that.
The Netflix movie, like he was going to strip clubs to like cast the girls. And stuff like
he would find people on the street like, hey, can you be in my movie? Right. Yeah. And so it's got that kind of like charm to it.
I love that, man. I love movies like this. Like just, I mean, it's a terrible movie, but it's also great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you believe the Netflix movie, like he sort of put all of his own money into making the movie, and the movie was just made in like guerrilla fashion. Like the cast and crew were just friends, or they were film students.
Yeah.
They took over an old abandoned hotel and like made it into the sets.
Like Rudy Ray Moore stayed at a hotel somewhere and for free.
Like it was a crack house, basically.
Or something like that.
In the movie, at least it was like a crack house, and he offered to I'll clear out all the crackheads if you let me
Yep.
use it as my sets for my movie.
Exactly. Or no, I think he lived there as like
He did live there.
the
At least
landlord
at
or
least
something
in the
like
Netflix,
that.
He stayed there because
Yeah.
he had to give up his apartment. or
Exactly.
whatever.
And so they let him. He filmed
Cover every
the
room
movie
and he
there,
made 'em
right?
into sets.
And I think the funny part is like when you see movies, if you see a movie, right, and I don't care what level, let's say Blair Witch Project, right?
Sure.
So I forget the exact amount of money that Blair Witch was made, but it was very cheaply made.
It was
right?
under $100,000.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
let's say
I
it
think
was
so.
made for $90,000, right?
Sure.
But in your mind, what you see is a movie, so you automatically think, oh, this movie was made for $10 million, and like all these people are rich and famous and everything like that. No, that's not what it's all. That's not what the movie industry is about at all. It's about people who have passion for telling stories, and they, by any means necessary, get that story out there. And this is what Rudy Ray Moore did.
Let it be a lesson of like passion can take you a long way.
Exactly. Like he found a way to get this movie made, right? So yeah, that was basically the birth of Dolemite, or how this movie was made. I mean, he went on to make a couple of sequels to this, but
Yeah, I saw that.
and maybe we'll get into that later.
You said you had a story about the director of photography as well.
Yeah, so the this is another cool thing about the movie is the director of photography. His name was Nicholas Joseph von Sternberg, and he was a kid that's like fresh out of film school, trying to just make his first film, right? And turns out his dad was like this really famous film director from like the 20s and 30s and 40s named Joseph von Sternberg. So I guess I bring it up to, you know, this is called 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, right? And, you know, Rudy Ray
Connect
Moore.
Dolemite to like these classic
Exactly.
movies. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you would have never thought that Rudy Ray Moore making Dolemite would have gotten the son of Joseph von Sternberg to be his director of photography for this film.
And now you see it being sort of remade with Eddie Murphy and Wesley Snipes and Chris Rock and Mike Epps in the movie, like an amazing cast of actors.
Exactly. So you plant the seed and this is where it's grown to.
It works backwards in time, forwards in time.
Yeah. I'm not sure what else. I'm pretty sure Nicholas von Sternberg photographed all of the other Dolemite movies.
Oh, yeah?
And I think he even did P.D. Wheatstraw.
Which was another Rudy Ray Moore movie.
So it was Rudy Ray Moore, but it wasn't Dolemite.
Right,
but it was still in that
Another
same
blaxploitation
Yeah, still in that same vein of
In the Netflix movie, it's kind of cool because this just a group of young like white dudes walk into the hotel. And everyone's like, who are these guys? And they're like, oh, these are a bunch of UCLA film students or whatever, you know, when you had the main guy, the director of photography, and then all the other guys. And I think they were there basically because they would work for nothing. Almost, you know
close to nothing.
Like they just wanted to make a movie.
Exactly. All right. So
I probably want to talk about the movie, I guess.
yeah, let's actually get into this
break it
movie,
down.
right? So the movie starts off with Dolemite being released from jail. So he's sitting in a jail cell in
It's like playing solitaire.
he's playing a card game with somebody, and officer comes along and is like, hey, you know, the warden wants to speak to you. And of course I forget what he says, but
he said, what is that rat soup? What the hell does that rat soup eating motherfucker want with me?
there is your entire movie. Like it is established like scene one,
A
right?
lot of Dolemite's character revolves around rat soup.
So he goes in and he talks to the warden, and the warden basically tells him that there's a bunch of like gang activity out in the streets, right? And his nephew was killed. His nephew, little Jimmy, was killed. So Queen Bee is there.
Queen Bee is there. What is the relationship between Queen Bee and Dolemite?
So
they're not lovers.
they're not lovers.
Yeah.
So Dolemite is basically a pimp, right? And she is
Like
his
the madam
of the house, right?
Okay,
so that's
she runs all the hoes.
yeah.
Basically?
She. So that's what. Yeah, that's the
What words
relationship.
can I say on this podcast?
I believe you can say hoe. I don't think we'll offend anybody with that.
Okay. More interestingly, what's the relationship between Queen Bee and the warden?
Oh, I don't.
They seem like, oh, you know my friend Queen Bee. Like, how are they friends? I think he comes to the brothel.
Probably in this world, I'm sure he does. Yeah, but
we should talk about the scene, the flashback where Dolemite gets arrested.
so they do a flashback where you can see like these cops pull up, right? And
They're waiting for Dolemite to come out.
yeah, and we're just assuming they're cops, right? But we later found out they're bad cops.
They're corrupt. Yeah.
So Dolemite walks out of his house in like this just pimping outfit, right?
Fully,
like black and white pimped outfit.
Got the hat to match.
Yeah.
He's coming out of his house, which is like a very nice house.
Yes.
It's
So
like in a swanky neighborhood.
So this is how we established that Dolemite was set up, and the cops were basically harassing him and like, hey, let's pop your trunk because we need to see what's in there. He opens up his trunk and there's like these furs in there, which I always thought was because the warden says, well, you were sent in here for furs and then like $500,000 in drugs.
Yeah.
Like, well, why the furs? Like, isn't $500,000 of drugs enough? But
I would think so.
Yeah. So basically, it looks like Dolemite's getting set up right by these crooked cops, and Dolemite's not even having it right.
Then he starts to fight him.
Karate, not just fighting him, not
Like
just
some
punching.
kung fu shit.
He starts karate, like, and I don't know what kind of karate.
I think he's kicking as high as he can, which is like waist high.
Yeah, so they start karate fighting these guys, right? Out of there is no reason you would think this guy knows karate, right?
Nah.
And
except karate flicks were very popular at the time.
That's the charm of this movie, because he knew that. Rudy Ray Moore knew that, and he was like, you know what? I want karate in my movie.
So when like a Shaft or somebody fights, was it just more like a brawl, like punching guys?
Yeah,
it wasn't kicks.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like. It's always funny to me, like in these vampire films, like how all the vampires know karate.
You're talking about like Blade or something?
Yeah, like how do all these vampires know karate? I mean, I guess they've lived long enough to figure it out, but still. But yeah, he just starts karate kicking these dudes, right? He kicks one, he like throws one over his shoulder.
He throws one in the trunk.
He kicks one into the trunk, and then they overpower him eventually, and they arrest him.
And that's when that boy's like, we got you now, boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He said, I got your boy hanging, you no business, born insecure, junk-jawed motherfucker.
And Kevin, your delivery of that line was 10 times better than Rudy Ray Moore's. Yeah, he says lines like this, where he's just like this long string of insults to people, like almost kind of rhyming.
It makes me laugh so much.
Yeah,
it's like the best cut downs.
Exactly. Like, what did that dude just say?
From someone saying that to
like,
you.
Somebody called me a rat soup eating motherfucker. I'm like, what? Like, I have nothing. I'm done, right? So they cut back to the warden's office and Queen Bee's.
Oh, wait, they do show the police go over to the car and Willie Green's in there.
That's true.
Although we don't know quite who he is yet.
Yes. So, but you can tell.
It was a setup.
But you can tell it was a setup, right? Because I forget how they worded it, but he's like, we got him, right? So I guess we should talk a little bit about Willie Green, right? So Willie Green was played by D'Urville Martin.
Also the director of the movie. And D'Urville Martin famously only did this because he wanted a director's credit. So he did this movie and one other movie called Disco 9000 that he directed.
But this was his first one.
Yeah.
So, but D'Urville was already an actor, right? And he was like, I wouldn't say he was an established actor. He was in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Yeah. And he was the guy that Spencer Tracy backed his car into. And he was the young kid in that car.
And then he was also in Rosemary's Baby.
And he's also in Rosemary's Baby as the elevator guy, right? Yeah. So he was doing like these mainstream movies. Films. Exactly. But he wasn't like the lead. He was like, guy on bench. Like he was like that character in all these movies.
He did a whole bunch of blaxploitation.
And he did a whole bunch of blaxploitation stuff, right?
I saw like Black Caesar and Hell Up in Harlem and a whole bunch of other ones with titles that I can't say.
No, I don't even think I can say them. But according to the Netflix special, they saw him in a club and they approached him.
He was in the titty bar.
Yeah, exactly. And they approached him and it's like, well, hey, do you want to be in our movie? And he was like, hell no. Nah. Yeah,
like I've been in Rosemary's Baby. Like you can't talk to me.
Yeah, why would I be in this piece of shit movie that you guys are having? And they're like, oh, you can direct it too. And he's like, sign me up, right? But
and if you believe the movie, he also thought just as they were making it that it was a piece of shit.
Yeah, he
didn't really care that much.
He really only did this for the director's credit, right?
And he died young.
He had died of a heart attack at like 45. Yeah,
that sucks.
He famously wouldn't show up to set. He famously drank while he was on set.
And it shows.
Yeah. So the reason I say that is because a lot of this film, it seems like they used like the first take, right?
I can see it.
I was always like, well, why wouldn't you just do that again? Like
the Netflix movie gives you a glimpse, right? Like that film was so valuable to them.
True.
That they couldn't afford to waste.
You had to get it right.
If you got the lines out, we're going to use it.
Yeah. And I'm sure obviously that played a part, but some things I don't know. It seems like it was a combination of both. A combination of let's just get this, say that line and let's get through it. And we don't have enough money to get it more film, which, funny enough, like today with digital, that wouldn't be an issue, right? Or it'd be as big an issue.
Record over it
Exactly.
or whatever, yeah.
Oh, and I saw this one thing about D'Urville Martin. Apparently, he is the one that created the word biatch.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what movie he did it, but I always thought that was interesting.
You could tell, like, so I didn't grow up watching these movies, but you can tell, like, when you see them, that they inspired people like Eddie Murphy or like Snoop Dogg and stuff like that. These videos,
early rappers,
early rappers and stuff in the music videos, 100. And stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. So we go back to the warden's office. Dolemite finds out that his nephew's killed. Now, to me, this is interesting because
the warden basically said, like, Queen Bee's been telling me for years that you're innocent, and I'm
prone to believe you
because since you've gone in jail, things have gotten worse in your neighborhood. There's been more crime and people selling guns and drugs to kids and all this, and the violence, like little Jimmy getting killed.
And this is Dolemite's nephew, and so they do like another flashback. Now this is again 2 flashbacks in the first opening scene, right?
And 2 like different tosses to the flashback.
Yeah.
One was like a hard cut, and the other one was like that wavy like transition, like and it cuts to little Jimmy getting killed. But then when they showed Dolemite getting framed up, it was just like a hard cut to a flashback. This movie was not like there was not a whole lot of consistency to the way it was constructed.
But the funny part was they literally, when they do that hard cut, they show it's almost like little Jimmy gets shot, but he's out of frame, and they do like this drive-by. So you don't even really, if they hadn't have told you what that was, you would like, what the hell just happened, right? You would have no idea what happened in this scene. And Queen Bee has like this line, and again, had to be first take. Like, I don't know if they took droplets of water and put her on her eyes.
Was she crying?
She's crying in this scene, but it's like, it's just so fake. Like, she's crying, but like she's almost smiling when she says a line.
Was it when they're talking about little Jimmy? Or?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm just so happy that you're out of jail or something like that. And so they let Dolemite out of jail.
The idea is like, we need you to go out here, Dolemite, in the streets and figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, find out where these guns and this violence is, right?
They say like, oh, don't trust anybody. But there's also going to be a secret FBI agent that will turn up.
Oh, did they say that then?
Yeah, they said
I didn't hear
when
that.
the time is right, he'll reveal himself.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't catch that part, but okay, that makes a lot of sense because he did come out of nowhere, right?
Absolutely.
So then we do like the opening credits where the song.
Yeah, the theme song, of course.
Yeah, which was I think done by Ben Chapman, which is a friend of Rudy Ray Moore's, and he's like, hey, can you do the theme song for my? And it sounds a lot like
funk song.
Yeah, and it sounds a lot like a Shaft song. Like he's bad and all that stuff like that.
There's just that one frame that pops up like the Dolemite girls. And it was like 13 different ladies. It's like none of them even have names. They're just the Dolemite girls. I love that.
And you look it up.
It looks like the opening credits to like when you're watching Grindhouse or some of these Tarantino movies.
Yeah,
like,
it does. Yeah,
he's inspired by that. The same similar type of font.
Exactly.
And the color, I think it was like bright yellow.
That yellow color, yeah. Also, which when I was looking at IMDb, I couldn't find who Chicago was, which she was a major character in this film.
If your character has a name, you should have a credit.
Not only just a name, but she had like a lot to do with the plot of the film. Like, and I was surprised that I couldn't find who she was. So if anybody out there knows which Dolemite girl was Chicago, I'd love to know that because I thought she was actually really good. You know,
there was some talent in the movie for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of passion. Yeah. So Dolemite's let out of jail. He's picked up in a limo.
Limo's waiting for him.
Yeah,
bunch of hot women.
A bunch of his girls are picking him up, and he decides to just change whatever prison clothes he has because he's been
in him out in sort of a raggedy suit.
But it looked like a suit that he had went in with. It wasn't like prison garb. It wasn't like prison. It looked like a pimp suit, but it was, I guess, the one he went in 2 years ago. So he didn't like that. So he wanted to change. Not in the car. He changes like right out there on the street, right? And one of the funniest lines is one of his girls in the car hands him some drawers, right? It's like, bitch, I don't wear cotton drawers. Like, I mean, he just establishes himself. He's
like, I don't want to get in my car with this shit on.
Yeah.
When he comes out, he's like, I'm glad you brought my clothes for me.
Yeah.
And it is a very like flashy suit.
So now he's in the car and he's making out with his girls. And the driver notices that they're being followed, right?
Yeah. How is there someone following them already?
He got a tip.
Get out that they were
there was
out?
a tip.
Okay,
I'm sure Willie Green probably knew.
I noticed like how immediately they were on him. It was an awkward sex scene they were having in the car. He's like sucking on them titties. Like The girls are just sort of kissing his chest.
Yeah, it
There's
was
2 of them.
Yeah, you're right. It was. It was.
But the whole movie's full of those.
Yeah, it was a weird sex scene. Yeah, but so anyway, so they're driving on the street, and you can see like these gangsters in the car, and they're waiting for him, and they're waiting for him to drive by, and he drives by, and they're like, "Oh, there it is. There's Dolemite. Let's go get him. Right? Make sure he's dead. Right?" As he's driving, this is where like the kind of James Bond-esque part of it comes out, because his driver notices that the guys are tailing him.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, hey, we're being tailed." Rudy's like, "Hey, hand me my piece." He's got like a submachine gun in his car, right?
He tells him pull over,
and so he jumps out, runs into the woods, and then they pull up a little bit ahead of him, and so then the gangsters come up, and they're like, "Where's Dolemite?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?
He's not in here?
He's not in here, right? We don't know what you're talking about." Dolemite walks up behind the guys and then blasts them.
Yeah, I think he probably said some shit to him and started shooting.
He says something. So then so for the rest of this thing, he says something to everybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
So then he has this one gangster kind of to himself. And this guy, I think, was an actor.
The one who made him dance?
Yeah, the one he made dance. This guy was an actor because the look on his face, like the scared look on his face, like, oh, I want to get this guy to dance now. So he starts shooting his feet like a Western, makes him dance, and he just blows them away. But here's the funny part, and I don't know if you noticed this. He's not dead, right? He kind of like he says, "Help me," almost like Will Ferrell in the. I'm not just dead. In Austin Powers, I'm not dead yet. I'm only hurt, right? He's like, "Help me!" And one of Dolemite's girls is like, "Oh, I got this, Dolemite." She takes out a switchblade. So I saw this twice. She unzips his pants. I think she cuts.
You hear a zipper.
Yeah, you hear a zipper. I think she cuts his dick off, right? Or she cuts it and he bleeds to death or whatever, right? That's this movie, folks, right? It's awesome.
They'll do anything, yeah. Now they wind up back at, I can't tell if it's supposed to be Dolemite's house or if it's like a brothel or what, but it's Dolemite and Queen Bee and like a whole bunch of women, and some of them are naked.
And Queen Bee's basically giving them the breakdown.
What had happened while he was away.
While he was away.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, Dolemite finds out that one of his girls, Pinky Yvonne, actually, she left and she went to go work with Willie Green, and Willie Green took over his club.
Yeah.
So, obviously Dolemite's not having any of this.
Yeah. Queen Bee said sort of she had to sell the club. She had to give up everything just to keep the group together.
Yeah. And also they're basically broke because they've been extorted by these 2 cops, Mitchell and White. Over the 2 years that they've been out, up to like $5,000 a month or
they said
something.
He was taking them down, and then Willie Green, they owe him $50,000. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this says we should you should go talk to the Creeper.
Yeah.
And see what lead he might have for
exactly. The Creeper, honestly, to me, was one of the best characters.
The better performances.
Yeah, in the whole movie.
He probably was high.
Because he was probably for real. So now this is where the movie starts to get... This weird movie starts to get really weird to me.
Yes. Are you talking about Karate School?
No, because I think that's later.
I want to, where Queen Bee says, all this money putting all the girls through karate school.
Yeah.
And then there's a weird flashback of them beating up this dude named Joe Blow.
True, yeah.
Kicking his ass.
He's got a great monologue.
He's like, bitch, you should be paying me.
Exactly, yeah. I ain't paying you.
He's like, I'm not giving you anything. You should pay me.
Yeah, and so then she kicks him out, yeah.
And they beat him up.
Yeah. There's a lot of craziness in this movie. There's a lot of scenes that they cut to, like a lot of cut scenes back to like a memory, and it's like it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Cut, you can't tell if it's a flashback or not.
Yeah, it's like what happened?
So what were you thinking about though? What craziness?
So
on the plot?
It's not so much craziness in the plot as craziness in the technicality of the movie.
Okay.
Because after that scene where they basically Queen Bee and Dolemite get up and are like, okay, let's go figure out, what we're going to do next. Right. Mm-hmm. So then they cut to a short scene and it should have been like the introduction scene of Willie Green, but they cut to this short scene of Willie Green getting out of a car, and you see he has his henchman with him, and he goes into like this massage parlor.
Yeah. Okay.
And the lady, her name is Flo, who runs the massage parlor. She's like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna hang out tonight." And he's like, "Oh, hell no, I ain't got time for all that, right?" And then
she's yelling at him.
She yells at him like this monologue about how black men don't like black women or something like that. Was
she black, Flo? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, she was. Yeah,
okay.
She was Californian black, you know, kind of light skin.
Okay.
Willie Green, I guess he's come there to
She
pick
does
up.
go on like a race. It's kind of a racial rant.
Yeah, it's
against
just
him.
it kind of just comes out of nowhere. Like I think they had these ideas and they wanted to put it in a movie, and it didn't matter if it made sense or not. They were just like,
There's no flow to it.
Yeah, I'm just going to put this idea right, and this is where it's going to fit, right? So Willie Green, he starts, you know, going to the back of I guess this is his massage parlor.
Uh-huh. It's like going door to door.
Yeah, I guess he's there to collect money. It's never really established. And this is the issue I have with like this next couple of scenes, because everything doesn't make sense to me. It in a one scene it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in a bigger picture, right?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, nothing to do with the movie. So he walks through his massage parlor, and he's, you know, there's, you know, girls that are naked.
To me, it's weird also that each door is like just
wide open. Yeah.
Like he's looking at each door, and like there's kind of various like scandalous shit going on.
Yeah, he's not kicking these doors in. It's very
just open.
Yeah, it's very open. So like these two girls are giving this one guy a massage.
That's what you call it?
Yeah, with a happy ending.
Under the towel.
Oh, they were definitely under the towel. And you know the thing about this movie, that probably really happened, right? There was a guy smoking a cigar in like a sauna, and he's getting a blowjob from a girl. There was no weird, like I really thought this would have been a kind of funny scene where you walk in one room and like some guy's tied up and he's getting whipped, but there wasn't that. They just had a bunch of people getting massages, right? So no, this is what's weird.
Then it just cuts to Dolemite.
And
he's with another woman who we'd never even seen before.
Yeah, I'm not I didn't think that was Chicago.
No, it's not.
I didn't think it was.
And it's not creepy.
But it would make sense if it was. You know,
it might be one of the other Dolemite girls.
It's just a random scene of Dolemite making out with a girl. So then
I like about this movie, there's a whole lot of like mediocre bodies in the movie. You know, like it's not like everyone's not shredded up and muscular and stuff. It's like realistic.
Definitely Dolemite. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everyone. I mean, or Willie Green, or like the some of the women, some of the dudes in the massage parlor. Like everyone just looks like they're real people.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Not actors and people with trainers.
I know what you're saying. Well, I figure a lot of those girls were probably dancers.
Some of the girls did have it going on.
Well, so I imagine they were like in real life.
In the Netflix movie, that's where he found the ladies.
Yeah.
Was
I imagine they were
willing to get naked.
Yeah, I imagine they were really dancers. So they probably had the better bodies.
The women were much more attractive.
Yeah, the dudes, they just like, hey man, you want to be in this movie? So having said that, we're gonna cut it right there. We're gonna pick this up in part 2.
Yeah, it's just too much movie for one episode, everybody. But we'll be back next week with more to talk about Dolemite, because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and this is the part that we're gonna come up is probably the most. There's a scene in this, probably the most famous scene of this whole movie. So yeah, you got to come back and listen to part 2.
All right, we'll be back.
He's a tough son of a gun.